Hey everybody, Questwise here, today with another video. I apologize for the crazy window in the background. I'm trying to adjust for that. I think though once I start talking here about the books I want to talk about today, I'll alleviate some of that problem. A little bit of a change of venue here. I've been kind of laid up with some issues with my foot, and so I'm not able to sit at my desk today. But I wanted to get you guys out another video today, and today I want to talk about my Hall of Shame is what I'm going to call it. These are some games that I've had for a long time, and I really love, but I'll never get rid of them, but I don't ever give them quite as much attention as I should, and I feel bad about that, and I want to share some of that with you. And maybe you guys can share some stuff with me on some games that maybe you don't give quite as much attention to as you should, but are games that are near and dear to your heart and that you really love. So without further ado, I can jump right into this. The first game that I will never get rid of, that this is my second time actually owning, but I don't ever get to play it, don't nearly give it enough attention, is MERP, or Middle-earth Role-Playing by ICE, or Iron Crown Entertainment. I was kind of disillusioned by this. I love the game. I love the percentile system that's included in the game, or that it uses as a mechanic. But as a Tolkien purist, I don't like the fact that there's magicians and mages and full sort of set of magic system in here. And I understand it's part of the Rolemaster universe, and it's kind of based on that. I couldn't ever really push myself to play this for full scale game because of the magic system, and I wanted something more pure and more something that was more closely related to Tolkien's universe than what this was. Though I've talked to a lot of people on Google Plus who love this game and who play it a lot, and they have given me some instructions on how to kind of work my way around the magic system in here a little bit and make it more Tolkien-esque, and to give it a better feel and stuff as well. So thank you to those guys. I really want to get this back to the table and try it again as well too. I really love the Rolemaster game system, the core mechanics that it uses, and I really want to love this game. I just, as my love of Tolkien, I just the magic in it seems way too D&D-ish to be Tolkien. But first one of my Hall of Shame is MERP, or Middle-earth Role-Playing. The second one that I really love, and again, I don't ever get to play this much, is Pendragon, or King Arthur Pendragon, as it's really known. This game's been out for a very long time. Because it plays not like a traditional Dungeons and Dragons game, or Pathfinder, or even old school D&D, because the way it plays is a very much more of a saga-esque storytelling game. I've always had trouble sort of wrapping my head around this idea. The fact that you're creating a character that's only going to be a part of the story, that you'll play through several generations of that character's family and or acquaintances and or friends, and or squires and knights and whatever. This book is beautiful as far as reference guide goes to anything in the Arthurian legends. This is perfect. I cannot say enough about this book. This book is beautiful. The interior art quality is amazing. The research done into the era is phenomenal. But because of the way that the story plays out in more of a saga fashion and more of a long-term, and I don't mean long-term campaign, though that's an accurate descriptor. What I mean is that in a long term, as in several generations, plays out during the course of this game. I've just never been able to really wrap my head around it, though I would really love to give this thing a chance at some point and pull off in long term. I played a couple one shots with this, and the mechanics are decent, but again, they're really geared towards that long term saga-esque play. I'd love to give this thing a chance. The other one, this is a game that I've had quite a while as well too. Legends of the Five Rings. This is put out by AEG, though I've noticed that the Fantasy Flight Games has just received a license to do the CCG of this based on this title, or this property as well. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I was a huge fan of the card game way back in the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there, mid 90s, I guess it was in. I love the background of this game. I love the world setting of this game. I followed this game through its own iteration, as well as the D20 iteration, as well as the blend of it and the D20 iteration that they put out for a while. I just love the history. I love the samurai era storytelling thing. I love the mechanic in this too. One of the more unique mechanics I have ever seen in a role-playing game, with the roll and keep system, which is you're given a certain number of dice to roll, and then a certain number of dice to keep of those rolls that you do. It's a great game. It's, again, a little bit different than normal hack and slash D&D sort of sessions, in that it's really a game about honor and a game about sacrifice and courtly intrigue and such. But again, I don't get as much attention to this as I should, though. With a new card game coming out, I plan on maybe bringing that back to the table, so that I can get some people to play the card game with me as well too. So Legend of the Five Rings, beautiful game, phenomenal background, great mechanic system. Love to get it back to the table. The next one I haven't played since college, and I feel really ashamed about that, but Werewolf the Apocalypse. I did not like the re-updated version when they came out with I don't even remember what it was called, because of Werewolf the Forsaken, something maybe. Didn't like that setting at all. Didn't like that new updated version. This book struck me from the moment I saw it on the shelves, with its sort of torn through cover. I don't know if I can show that here, with the weird setting I'm at, with the cool slash through cover that was given to it. This game's always captured my imagination. There's something about this, and not so much just this book itself, even though this is a great setting, but Werewolf the Dark Ages has always been something that's been very intriguing to me, and I've always wanted to really run a lot of games of it. I ran a few games of this in college, and a few people were okay with it, but most people came from a D&D background and they wanted to play D&D, and therefore this didn't get a lot of attention. And at the time it was weird to have a D10 system, and all the World of Darkness stuff used that D10 system as more of a storytelling game as well too. It was unique and it was innovative in its time at that point, in the way it was done, and I don't think at the time many of my friends were really ready for that sort of innovation. They didn't want to make that kind of a change, and so we only got a couple of games of this in, and this is my original book from way back in those days. But I do love this game. I love the theory behind it. I love the story line to it, and I'm really intrigued with the Dark Ages version of it. I think that would make some really amazing stories. But again, would love to get this back to the table, and don't give this nearly as much love as it deserves. The other one I want to talk about is a game that was very short-lived. Not many people that I've ever talked to have ever heard of this game. This is called Rune. It was put out by Atlas Games, and it was written by Robin D. Laws. I love everything that Robin Laws does. Everything that he sort of invents and he creates has always been really intriguing to me. This is actually based off of a video game that was put up by Human Head Studios, and in fact it used to have, you can only see the tape in the back of it now, but it had a copy of the video game in it. It was a CD-ROM for Windows that you put into your computer, and it was the game itself, I guess for the time, might have been okay, but it was really cheesy and really badly made. But the concept behind it was that you were a Viking and you were trying to gain glory before the end of your life. And that's what's really innovative about this game, is that even though it's a role-playing game, there are winners and losers in each session. It's designed to be sort of a thing where each player gets to be a game master for a time. They get to design scenarios that everybody can partake in, and you're competing against the other players at the table to defeat the enemies, gain as much loot as you can, and die with the most glory, basically. And whoever does that, achieves that, gets the most glory at the end of each session, is the winner. There's an actual winner and loser, and again, it gives you the idea that after the game session, if anybody's dead or alive or whatever, you go back and you drink mead and you boast about your tales and gloat over your glory that you've achieved. So this really interesting idea behind this game. Some weird theories behind this are dwarves with steampunky mechanical things going on and strange demons and whatnot, but most of it's drawn from Norse mythology. What I thought was really interesting about this game as well too is that some of the gifts that you get, some of the things that you can attain and achieve are like gifts from the gods themselves, and they have a lot of flavor to those as well, and it's very, very cool setting. The reason I don't get to show this very much and the reason I don't get to play this very much is because I've never met anybody else who's ever had a copy of this. So it's really, really hard to have people each player design their own scenarios to play when I'm the only one who's ever had a copy of this book. I picked this up at a small game store here in my local town that's not even around anymore. It was called Hocus Pocus, and he provided costumes, professional magic tricks, and role-playing games for some reason, some miniatures and stuff as well. But I picked this up on a whim because I was really interested in sort of the artwork style. At the time, I didn't know who Robin Laws was. Now I'm very appreciative that I have this, and part of the collection of my Robin Laws grouping of games. It's pretty rare. Not a lot of people remember this. So another one, very near and dear to my heart, but again, kind of hard to bring to the table unless I wanted to be a guy who just, got to monitor the whole thing. So, Rune. The last one I love because of, and you can see I've tabbed the crap out of this thing, is Ars Magica. And this was put out by Atlas Games. I'm not even sure what edition this is. 4th edition, maybe? Oh, yeah, 4th edition right on the front there. Duh. I've always been intrigued by magic and magic systems and how magic works and why magic works and the traditions behind magic. And after a while, you get really, really tired of the Vancian magic system in Dungeons & Dragons. And it just becomes very old hat and very boring after a time when, you're preparing spells every day. And unless you play it very strictly by the rules of the book, where you need to collect components and you need to do special gestures and you need to do, have special implements to make this work. And there are always ways around it, especially in 5th edition. If you have an implement, you don't have to have components. If you blah, 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 whatever. There's a lot of different ifs and buts and this and thens. But if you play it by the old school, I remember 2nd edition was always my favorite as far as the Vancian system kind of goes. And by Vancian, I mean inspired by Jack Vance's stories. I believe in The Dying Earth, where he talks about how spells are memorized, and then once they're cast, they're erased from your memory, and you have to rememorize those every time. It's cool. It's a cool idea, but it got kind of overplayed in D&D, and I think that it would be interesting to have some variant versions of magic in D&D. And you get a little bit of that in sorcery and playing a warlock and that kind of stuff, but it's still the same. When I went out looking for a magic system that really kind of intrigued me and was kind of based on more of a historical thing, I found this. I found Ars Magica. And this is really interesting, and I love the way that magic is portrayed in this, and it feels a very, very historical-esque, based on historical texts and things that would be, found in more of a mythic sort of Europe, are contained in here, and it's done really, really well. Spells are put together by several different versions. You can do rituals, which take a long time to cast. but in it you get a long-lasting effect. Maybe, consecrating an area or protecting a building, something of that effect. But there's also spells that can be written down and memorized, and can be learned by anybody who has a little bit of talent with magic. And then there's sort of like ad hoc or on the fly spells that you can do by just throwing together certain magical words or magical symbols, and while less powerful, they tend to be a little bit more flexible and stuff. Again, set in sort of a historical, pseudo-historical, mythic Europe. Very, very cool. This is a troop style play in that you make several characters. Every player makes several characters. And you have your mage, because that's kind of the whole point of the game. And then you have your sort of your people that you lean on. It could be your protectors, it could be your servants, it could be townsfolk, and you play those out in different scenarios and stuff as well. So very, very cool idea that you're not always playing the mage, because the mage doesn't have to be a central focus all the time. But there might be some sort of a mission that he'd send some of his advisors on to go before him to some kind of council or something, or to look for spell components to complete some kind of special thing. But a very, very cool idea. So those are my games. Those are my. I'm gonna keep holding this up here so this window doesn't blind you all again. This is part of my Hall of Shame. Games that I don't ever give as much love to as I would like to. The games that I'm never going to get rid of because I really, really enjoy them, even just to read over as nostalgic properties, or to use as a reference for other games, such as like Burning Wheel or D&D or something like that. But please, if anybody out there has played any of these or has a love for these as well, let me know in the comments below. Or if you'd like to do a video response on games that are part of your Hall of Shame, I would love to see that too. That would be really, really cool. But that's my thoughts on the games that I really love and don't get enough play to. And I think should have another video up here pretty soon. Going to be talking about some Dungeon Crawl Classics and my love for that game and stuff as well too. So tune in for that next video on Dungeon Crawl Classics or DCC if you're interested. But until next time, I'm Questwise, and we're out.